Welcome to the Giving It Away podcast. My guest this week's Jimmy McCRORY. Jimmy, thank you. Very excited to have you here, mate.
Cushy.
So we're just going to talk about your life and about recovery.
Lovely.
So what was your childhood like then?
Childhood was, I can't make no excuses for my childhood having any consequences of active addiction. I was loved abundantly. My mother, my father couldn't have done any more for us, really. You know. We weren't spoiled, we didn't get everything that we wanted, but we got everything we needed, you know.
How many brothers and sisters you got?
Got one brother, one sister, and we had one that died.
Sorry,
had a little sister. I didn't know, so, it was just my mum's, unfortunately, my dad's heartache, but I either lost one, but got one brother and one sister there back home in Ireland with my mummy. That's where daddy's buried, you see.
So growing up, were you in trouble?
I was a little to be honest with you, I had a massive problem with authority.
Right.
I can remember that would be the priest, neighbours, teachers, anyone, anything, you know. But back then, I used to just get told there's a want in us, which is an Irish saying, my dad says there's a want in that. I'd get the buckle of the belt, you know what I mean?
What does that mean?
Basically, I'm waiting to get diagnosed with ADHD and autism now, but just means I was constantly naughty,
right?
You know?
Just a little shit.
Yeah, craving attention at school. I had to be the spotlight had to be on me, you know. And as I grew old, obviously got into amateur boxing. The school actually phoned my mother and says to me, when James has got bouts, don't send him into school because all he does is talks. Like all the lessons every day, he'd be talking about my boxing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fuck the 30 people that were there to learn national curriculum, but I need to talk about my boxing, you know what I mean? But yeah, I just had a massive problem with authority. But I think that's down to the ADHD or whatever you want to call it, the addiction. And I don't know. I'm just different on it.
What type of trouble did you used to get into as a kid?
Everything. Graffiti, smashing things up, and then obviously I was always knocking about with people that were older than us. So the drinking started quite early for me. I had my first joint when I was 10. Well, the drinking, see, when my dad used to be back with the Irish boys and they'd have a little kid at the house, they'd be putting on Mick Flavin and Charlie Prade, Daniel O'Donnell, basically drinking all night. Now, there was nothing for us to just get a can off my dad.
It's Irish culture, isn't it? Yeah.
There's nothing for us to get a can. We're having a mouthful. My dad didn't let us have full cans when we were weans, you know what I mean? Or we get a mouthful of it. I remember thinking, cheers, lovely that. Beer doesn't taste nice.
No, it's fucking horrible.
It's just because I was doing something that I knew I shouldn't have been doing. I was like, it's fucking lovely this, you know what I mean? But I remember, growing up, the lad Graham Spence from Long Benton, me and him had fucking forgot to do I think it was SATs or something. It was some important fucking homework. So we lashed down mine because we lived in Long Benton. We lashed down mine, and my dad was bad with cancer at the time, and he went out. And of course, me being me, I thought it'd be a good idea to get a few cans of scotch while we were doing this homework, you know. And Spen had one, and I had, I think, 4 or 5. And I was dinner time, my back was half cut. And I should have knew then, there's something odd about me, you know what I mean? It was just a laugh back then, but it was just crazy. We used to walk to school, Andrea Watson. Without that lassie, I'm telling you, I would never have known any lessons I had in school. My dad used to love her because she used to keep me right, you know. Andrea Butler's there now, she's married. She used to keep us right for a long time. I love the lassie a bit, and she's an amazing little lassie. She's an amazing woman now. We used to walk over along Benton High School, and I'd just leave. I'd go behind the metro station. I'd be having buckets then, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that was pretty much every day, apart from when I wasn't suspended. I'd be there, be going to school stoned. Just anything really that. It's not that I even liked being stoned, you know what I mean, of tack. I liked the smell and taste of green, but the tack, the solid, I didn't. But escapism, I didn't like being me growing up, you know. Which is even why, because, as I say, the spotlight always had to be on me, and I was a popular person. I used to always make people laugh and whatnot. I don't think they were so much laughing with us or laughing at us because they're fucking little coconut, you know what I mean? The drugs started at school.
So was weed the first drug you tried?
Yeah, well, I had a joint when I was 10, but that's like waiting to go into St. Mary's. I was thinking, it's cush to this, you know what I mean? Because I felt as though I wasn't me, you know what I mean? But, the joint only lasted maybe 40 minutes or half an hour. That was back to being me. I was chasing that for ages, you know what I mean? I wanted that feeling again. And as I say, when I got to St. Mary's, I was about all the people. Ronnie Lancaster and John Rudbrook, they were older than 15, 16. Obviously, they were drinking and that, so, and on the bucket. So I started with them. I mean, listen, I'm not blaming them for my fucking outcome, you know what I mean? But they certainly opened the door for us anyway, I will say that.
Did you used to get into fights or anything at school?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day. Like, there was, God rest his soul, Lee Hope. Very good friend of mine, but me and Hope, you know, always the big lads, the fat lads at school, and always the biggest, and always very competitive, me and Hope. And I would say, like, in St. Stephen's, we fought every I would say every day, if not every other day, you know.
Yeah.
He'd win some, I'd win some, and that went on up until the last year, and then like the last year we got a little bit older, I suppose, a little bit more mature. You know, I mean, we're still fought, but it's not as regular, you know. We actually started knocking about each other because I was moved to the other side, Long Benton, and we used to knock about each other, we were friends, and then grew up at St. Mary's, had loads of fights. People come to the school, putting sort of balls over my head and whatnot, and I mean, them lads now, I've spoiled them since, you know, just daftness that happens. And then other lads, unfortunately, I carried one of them to his grave. One of my good friends, Michael McGuinness. Me and him having a good pack, and we're very good friends. Like, you know, we hit each other a lot in this fight, St. Mary's, and then he was a bit naughty like me, and he got kicked out. I was gutted. I was proper gutted because me and him were good friends. You know what I mean? Like, his aunt used to be at the Irish Centre, and we knew them and were close family friends, and he got kicked out. I was gutted, and unfortunately, I went on the wrong path. Same as the other good friend, David Dixon, God rest his soul. Them two lads are very good friends of mine, and I hope they don't get forgotten. If people from school remember them and this, I hope they talk about them, you know, because they shouldn't be forgotten.
Yeah, keep their names alive. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you're saying you had your first drink when you were 10. Did you get drunk at 10, or was that just a taste?
No. Well, I had my first drink. I was younger. I was weighing, you know what I mean, probably 5 or 6. I'm getting a mouthful of my dad's stuff. But the first drink, 10 hours pissed doing the burn. That was when I had my first joint.
Aye.
Obviously, I didn't. First time I got proper PV. I was a greedy cunt and I type of addict. I wanted more, you know what I mean? And I was sick everywhere. And of course, the first feeling, or the first thought that I thought, I'm not doing this again. And that lasted about a week, you know what I mean? And then I was straight back into it.
When you left school,
yeah,
what happened with your drug use then? Because you were boxing at that point.
Yeah, I was. Well, to be honest with you, my dad was dying of throat cancer, and he said to us, listen, he says, my dad knew, like, you know, about the dirt and I did, and he says, listen, you've got to give this a proper good go. So I promised my dad, I said, right, Dad, I promise I'm going to give it a decent go. Then he died. Then unfortunately I went on the drink very badly over the fusey. I was 17 then when Dad died. I was in the fusey for every day for about a month or something. And then my coach, Mickey Duncan at the time, he used to drink with the fusey, and I remember Anne Cook rang and says, we've got a show coming up, do you want to get yourself fit for it? And I says, yeah. I said, I've only put on a couple of stone. When I got back in the gym and I stood on the scales, I was 17.8 stone. I couldn't believe it. I put on like 5 stone, you know what I mean?
What weight were you meant to be fighting at?
75 something middleweight. And then got training with Mickey. Mickey Duncan, you know, Mickey's a very special man to me. He was there for us when my dad died. We've had a fallout since then, obviously. Drinking, social media. To be honest with you, egos. But that man, I love him like a second father, you know. When my dad died, and then my brother tried to commit suicide, I fought a lad called Davy Strong from Carlisle. I went up to the gym, and obviously Mick was like, I'm going to fight. I said, no, I'm going to fight. Went up to the high pit, and then I won that night. And then when my dad died, he was there for us 100%. Mickey done a lot for us. He used to come to the house, you know, on his bike. You see us out running. He didn't have to do that as a coach, and that's a coach's job to tell you what to do, not to make you do it.
Yeah.
He got a lot of his time, and when he was married to Los Angeles, you know, they done so much for us, you know. I was training down there, I was eating, doing there, you know. I spent a lot of my time down at Mickey's in Long Benton, and he kept us right, kept us on the right path, because if I had stayed where I was drinking and doing the drugs in the Fusey, I wouldn't be here the day, you know. He turned us around in the boxing gym, and that's when I really started turning the corner, you know what I mean?
So what drugs were you doing in the Fusey in that time period?
Oh, coke, ease, drink, that's what I remember, like.
Yeah. So the more sociably acceptable ones at that point.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, I would have done anything that someone would offer us, you know.
Yeah.
If it's going to change the way that it make anything that changes the way that I feel, you know, I'll have a go of it. The only drug that I haven't done, not that I'm proud of, the only drug that I haven't done is heroin. Right. You know what I mean? But on my relapse, down on Coventry there, when Jojo McTeague's cousins, and obviously all the crack was gone. We've been out for 3 days, and went in this room, and Jojo's cousin was chasing the dragon, and Nixon, he was asleep on the settee, and I was like, I want to go with that. You know what I mean? But there's someone in my head telling us, don't do it. But this other side of it saying, just have a go. And honestly, it was turmoil in my head. So I remember fucking saying, Nixon, get up, will you? And he wouldn't wake up, so I went and got a knife, and I said, if you don't get up and get me out of this house, I said, I'm going to stab you. I says, I need to go. You know, he said, what the fuck's wrong with you? He says, McCRORY's 7 years. He says, I've never seen it. I says, get me out of this fucking house now. I said, I'm going to go and fucking chase that dragon. I says, get us out, I've got to go now. Obviously, he didn't know what I was like. I didn't know back then that I had the disease of addiction. And he's looking at us, and we jumped in the van. We drove back to his mum's house, and we settled down. He was going, fuck McCRORY, I've never seen any of that before in my life. I said, listen, I says, if you hadn't left then with me, I says, I'd be like on the smack now. I said, I would. You know what I mean?
It's funny you should say that, because I've tried heroin twice in my life, and they've been the exact same circumstances. I've been somewhere, there's nothing left. I've been awake for days, and I'm like, oh, fuck, gives a go that. And luckily for me, I didn't like the feeling. And I thank God for that, because that would have been the end of me.
Yeah, 100%.
It really, really would have been.
My best pal growing up, David Dixon, he died of it, you know. If Mark doesn't get himself into recovery, you know, give it a proper effort, it's going to take him too, you know what I mean?
During this time period, when you were drinking in the Fusey, and then you started, you did the boxing afterwards. Take me from there. Yeah.
Done quite well in the boxing, and as I say, I ended up going up with last call out with Chaz, and I had a bet with her, and then things got on cushion and all that, and then I felt I got to jail for the Friday nights and all that, and then she just changed, and I found it very hard. I don't deal well with change, you know what I mean? Then I started drinking more than no, sorry, I'm telling lies. I went Ireland, I fought in the Irish Championships. You're not allowed to have 2 medal cards. But of course, I had it in my head, if I had like a few hundred amateur fights, I'd be turning pro quicker. So I had an amateur card in Ireland and England. And Son Grasters, and I got a court when I got knocked out in the Irish final. Then I come back and I fought Stuart McCRORY the next night. Stuart hit us with probably, he says, the best body shot he's thrown in his life, and I'll just reiterate that it probably was the best shot. I'm still fucking sore now. And then they done an investigation. It was, they knew there was someone up with us, and they found out that I had 2 medical cards. Anyway, I got banned, and then when I got banned, you know, I just couldn't sit in the house, you know what I mean? Sit in the house and watch fucking Hollyoaks right through the stand. That's not me, you know what I mean? So then I was going out socialising, things that I hadn't done for the past 3 or 4 years, and obviously back on the drink, and then the drink and the coke was changing the way that I felt, you know? But I was in full throttle then, you know what I mean?
7 days a week full throttle?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to work, and I'd probably say 4 or 5 days, and then I'd have a couple of days. But I knew, no, I'm telling lies, 7 days. 7 days. I'd go home and then I'd be out, yeah.
What were you doing for work then?
I was working groundworks, I think, or labouring, I'm not sure.
Right.
Yeah. Groundworks for a couple of days, and then I was back working for one of John's friends on 7 Rivers, it was called. The project, and working on a house in Jesmond, the people who own Big Luke's, I was working on their house.
Do you have any good memories from that time period when you were full throttle?
Oh, listen, I wouldn't have done it for as long if I didn't, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell everyone here that it was all misery, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a good 10 years. I would say, my first drug, 10, till I would say, I started drinking doing again 21, full throttle. So from 10 to 22, I'd say we're good, right? Even though that I had like a break in between for the boxing.
Yeah.
But 10 to 22, I had good times. Lads, holidays, raves, really good. I went on my first 18 to 30 holiday when I was 15. You know what I mean? I had to get Paul Robinson to sign a responsibility claim. My parents had to sign a disclaimer and all that. And I loved it. I had some great times. I really did, again, because I was doing something that I shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Magaluf Uncovered was getting, Magaluf Uncovered was getting filmed, and I was on Tokyo Joe's giving it fucking what for, I thought it was amazing. But then the sad thing about that is when people my own age, in my year, they were going on holidays, I was like, done that fucking 4 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the pros and cons, you know what I mean? Yes, I had some great memories with my brother and my brother's friends and lads that I snuck out with in Long Benton. But then I missed out a lot as well, you know what I mean? I went on one lads' holiday with like Baz Watson, Buzz and Terry Fitches and all that, the Naughty Squad, and we had a laugh, but again, that nearly killed myself on Buzz's motorbike. I was off my tits on E. Decided to jump on that, and I was just speeding out, and this cockney jumped out in front of us, so I just fucking poleaxed him, didn't I? So then someone phoned the police, that was it. I was a van goff, bump, I was off. Tied behind the bin for 3 hours.
You were saying, you had a bin, and then you went back on it full throttle.
Yeah, and then obviously finished with Antoinette, I caused a lot of heartache to her, unfortunately. Something that I'll try to apologise to, make amends to now, but because of her ego won't error, you know what I mean? Just because her dad's a gangster, or was a gangster, whatever you want to call it. She thinks she's one, but it is what it is. I can keep my side of the street clean now. That's what I can do. If she won't let me make amends, I'll try and make amends. That's on her. Same as my daughter, Say she just come back to me recently, a couple of years ago, but I was only using us, you know what I mean? Because she was desperate, she needed money, and unfortunately she's going down the same route as me, you know what I mean, with the drugs. But at the end of the day, I can't do nothing, but she knows where I am when the time comes. If the time comes, if she doesn't die, and that's probably the hardest thing that I've had to deal with in addiction, because now I know what it does, you know what I mean, and where it goes. You know yourself, how many empty seats are at the meetings, and them empty seats are people who've been there and your friends, and it hurts, because I know that my daughter's been wrapped in cotton wool all her life. She hasn't got the fight in her that I have, and if she doesn't stop, then, it's going to stop her.
How old is she now?
She's 21, I think. Right. 21 January. Yeah, she was born over 4. So she's 21, I think, and January the 27th.
Moving on from that time period, where were you at in life?
I was doing alright, but then the drink buckled me and the mother, and then I was steady soon for a while in the castle, but I really was getting no good. Dealing myself, and I was a shit deal. I was to fucking snoop more than I had to sell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I decided, I said, listen, I've got to make a change. But then I went back home to Ireland to my mummy's. I thought I'm definitely going to make a go of things. And it was good. I was back training at Greencastle Amateur Boxing Club, and with my boys and having a few fights over there. But I couldn't escape the drink. It was good. I didn't have the drugs there. I mean, there was drugs in Belfast, Dublin, Limerick, the big cities, there's drugs, but not around the wee culture places where I live.
How different is the drug scene in Ireland to here? Ireland's one of the few places I want to go. I've never been.
Yeah, well, listen, in Gorchin, it's not really bad, but it is creeping in,
Yeah.
It definitely is creeping in. The cocaine's creeping in, but it's not as bad as it is yet.
And is the crack hit over there as big as it has here?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Dublin, Limerick, the big cities. It's rife. You know what I mean? It really is. Dublin's got a very big problem with heroin and crack. Limerick, the cocaine's like starting clearing Limerick too. Belfast, big in Belfast, and it is getting a problem in Roma.
Yeah.
I've got friends back home that I've spoken about it, and they just laugh. And I'm saying, well, I say, what are you at now? And some of them will message back, I was having a big line here. And it generally makes me feel sad, because I've sat on the drink with them boys for 2 and 3 days, you know what I mean? And we've had the best of fun, and like, I know they're killing themselves. This disease is, it's most prolific serial killer known to man, but because people don't think it'll happen to them, you know, it doesn't get as much coverage as what it definitely should, you know, as simple as that. And with all the promotions of drink and, you know, the dancing and rave scene around here, you know, kids are growing up thinking that it's normal to get a bag, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which couldn't be any further from the truth, you know what I mean? If someone said to me, right, I'll cut your wrist, right? It's bleeding, it's sore. But I tell you what, we'll cut a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't do it, would you?
No.
If it's getting closer to your vein, you wouldn't do it. Someone gives you a Henry, and it goes on to a quarter, then it goes on to a half, and then you're on the full Oscar, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then you think, oh shit, this. Then you start smoking it, right? You're well on your way to fucking OD and killing yourself, you know what I mean? It's going to come up to you eventually. You wouldn't do it, would you?
No.
You wouldn't cut yourself and like watch yourself bleed to death. But with drugs, because you think you're having a good time, it's totally acceptable to kill yourself slowly that way, isn't it?
Yeah. One of the things I've only just learned recently about how bad things are now for kids, because Coke didn't I'm 44, Coke didn't really come in till my life, till I was about 19.
Right.
I was talking to somebody in the rooms just the other day, and he was like, I used to go up to the 13-year-olds and that on the Meadowell and tax that fucking sniff off them. And I was like, fucking 13-year-olds on sniff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it was just a bit of tack in my day at that age.
Yeah, well,
and even that was bad for a child. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I heard the same thing. Even in my old school, I used to go to St. Mary's. Like, we used to sell tack. You know what I mean? We would sell green.
Yeah.
You know, we used to sell like fucking a bucket and whatnot. You know, we did, and we would sell fiver deals at school. But no people are chucking, you know, fucking half ounces. Sorry, half grams. You know what I mean? At school, like, what chance have the kids got? Seriously, what chance have they got, right? If they're chucking, and I will care it maybe only be a half or a gram, what chance have they got? If that's the way that they're living their life in school, when they're leaving, it's just going to go downhill, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And especially, I mean, the brain's still developing at that age and everything. It's fucking hell. That's a lot to think about. I'm really pleased I grew up when I did and not now.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was definitely in the wrong generation, mate. I would have loved to have been born in the 60s, 70s.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah,
with the hippies and that.
Old fashioned, beer in the kitchen, ironing and looking after the bends. And me going to work, that'll do me.
You're in Ireland, you're boxing, drinks there. What went wrong?
To be honest, it would have been easy asking me mummy what went right in that time. I was there for, I think, 10, 12 years. And listen, man, you had wards, and then you had Mossy's and McGuigan's. There's 3 pubs and there's a restaurant. All sold drink. I think it was a music shop, 2 paper shops, and a DIY shop. That's all there is in the street.
Right.
Yeah. So, and it's funny now because we're out of it. But, you know, it was a real fucking challenge. If my mammy said to me, oh, James, will you go and put the lottery on for us? Or will you go and get us a 4 pint of milk? I'd be gone days sometimes, you know what I mean? My mother still wouldn't make a cup of tea. You know, I laugh about it now, but back then it wasn't funny at all, you know what I mean? It was just hard. And, like, if I went and try and put the lottery on for my mum, I'd think, oh, I'm doing a good turn.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't get past. If I was that close to McGuigan's, I couldn't get past it without going in. Then me and Mike would be sitting at McGuigan's playing pool and 20, 30 pints would be dusted before I get back, you know?
I make a point on this podcast of not glorifying the madness, but we're going to have to get into some of your war stories.
Yeah, let's go.
Don't do this at home, kids.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, you know, like, the war stories, like, you know, everything that I'm about to say, generally I'm not proud of. Deeply ashamed. I've done me with my sponsor, and I've tried to make amends where I've been allowed. Some people tell us to fuck off. Which I accept. You know, I'll go back next year. You have to. I'll go back next year and I'll try and apologise again.
Mm-hmm.
If I get told to fuck off again, then I'll try again in probably a year or 2, you know. You know, I'm not going to, like you say, glorify the war stories, okay, but, you know, probably we'll go to the worst things I've done, okay. Worst things that I've done, alright, robberies, sexually assaulted a man, alright, cable tied him, he wouldn't tell us where his stash was and with the money, okay, so I got my McCRORY out and I started fucking having a wank, and it wasn't until I straight his leg with my McCRORY, I said I'm going to rape him, right, he told us where it was, you know. Aye. And other occasions, you know, followed someone home from him, dropped the kids off, you know, and I used a firearm and I says if he didn't give us what I wanted, then his family would be targeted, you know. I've got children now and deeply ashamed that, even though I don't see my kids, I'm deeply ashamed that a grown man, me, I got my drugs and money by any means necessary. You know, I think it's well known, you know, that I'm a heterosexual, and that sort of behaviour I wouldn't cross my mind. And if I heard about someone else doing it now, because I've got a little bit of clean time, I'd be disgusted, you know. But I've got to try and send a message out of what crack, what it does to me. Again, if it does that to me, it can do it to anyone else. You know, it made me do a lot of things that I would never do. And
when did the crack start for you, and what were the circumstances of you having it for the first time?
I had it years ago, and then don't know what it was, to be honest with you. Don't get me wrong, it was a good high, but I didn't sit out drinking all the time. I saw you drinking and smoking all the time. But then the second time, I think me and Travis went and done a death in Liverpool, and come back, and no, it wasn't that actually. It was me and Follow. I can't remember the stack, the bait I fucking has. I can't remember the exact time, to be honest with you, that many times I've fucking been on and off it. But when I got back on it, went like, I hit it hard, you know, I think.
How old were you when you started hitting it hard? How old are you now, actually?
I'm 41 now. 41 now. I think when I come back from Alien 2009, was it 2009 or 2010, I think?
Yeah.
So I had it then, I don't know what it was, but then when I wasn't allowed to see my daughter, I used it a lot. So I had to take her to court, and obviously I got a court order, but then she just didn't stick to it. But back then, obviously, my ego ran my life, you know, and the only way I could invoke the court order was by phoning the police, and I can't do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was my ego. I didn't want to be seen as a gross, you know, but looking back now, I would definitely phone the police to get it invoked, because I've missed out on all that time with my daughter. You know, I can never get that back. My daughter hates us. She's only heard one side of the story, and again, that's on her. If she only wants to hear one side of the story, then that is really up to her. I'll be dead and gone. Probably fucking in the next, I'd imagine, 20 years somewhere. You know, I've took my life expectancy off my life, and being diagnosed with skin cancer. So there's things there that could possibly end my life, but it is what it is. When I'm gone, I'm gone, and then it's up to her to deal with.
So you mentioned your ego there.
Yeah.
One of the things that made me think about was the Vice documentary.
Yeah.
What were the circumstances like? How did that come about? And that went super viral. I mean, I think it's on 16 million views now. How did that affect you?
It was on 19 million, and then something happened. They dropped views for someone. I don't know how. To be honest with you, mate, I can't really tell you much about it, because I was like fucking on a full throttle.
Yeah.
I'm getting phone calls asking if I do it, and again about the film.
So you were obviously already fighting bare knuckle at the time when they contacted you.
Yeah.
When did the bare knuckle fight start for you?
2000.
I mean, school really, but but like in the ring.
Started me bare knuckle crowd with Lee Hope and Shane Stevens. No, we had, I think I fought Dave Radford first in 2012. I think.
Right.
Yeah, I think 2012. But back then it was, you know, when I was fighting, I had built drinking.
Because I think that was when I first heard of you, was the Vice documentary, and then through that I then went and watched with the fights I could find on on YouTube.
Yeah, the Dave Radford fight. To be honest with you, there'd been a Gypsy Boy and there'd been a film if it hadn't been with Dave Radford. You know, I'm sick. Not that I'm sick. I probably sound ignorant. I find it hard to take props for people saying, "Oh, James, this and James that have, you know, you really made the bare knuckle big again in this country." I didn't, because if I hadn't have beaten the man that went the distance with Roberto Duran, no one would care about me. You know, let's just be honest about this. No one would give a fuck about me. Dave Radford was travelling up and down the country, you know, fighting men like the Bulldog and, you know, anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, you fought Neil Bisping at a short notice as well. Like, Dave is the real pioneer of bare knuckle. It's not James and McCRORY. The pioneer of bare knuckle is Dave Radford.
Yeah.
Simple as that, you know.
So when the documentary comes out, all of a sudden you would have been a lot more well known outside of the circles that you were known in originally.
Yeah.
What was that like for your ego?
To be honest with you, I didn't like it because like I don't like change, you know, and like it was a laugh like when people used to ask for a photo because my ex Birdlian at the time, she used to think that I liked it, but like I was really, really embarrassed by it. And she's like,
you probably don't know this, but I'm one of those people that asked you for a photo.
Really?
I've got one with you somewhere, yeah.
Wow, get it. Yeah. There you go.
Well, I've met you twice in the madness.
Right,
once I got a photo with you, and once we had a drink in the Raby. How you were drinking in the Raby?
Oh yeah,
me,
probably been off and up really together then.
Yeah, me lass at the time, and well, pals were there, and we were singing on the karaoke. He's were like, "Oh, come over here," and I was like, "Fucking hell, it's Jimmy McCrory." We were sound as fuck. Well, look, you mustn't have had your cable ties with you that day.
No, you don't need to take me in.
But no, you were fucking mint with me. Like we had a mint afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you sound as fuck him. Mm-hmm. And then the next time I saw he was in the rooms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now it's absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Thank God that we made it. You know what I mean? Because let's get real. I've carried so many people to the graves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that still wasn't enough for me, Craig.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't enough for me. And my Lauren Stephen Miller down to his the bottom of his grave. Upon me, I looked up right, and I seen Gemma crying. I seen the two girls crying. That still wasn't enough. What did I do? I'd been on the. By the way, we went down and we were doing a practice run. Me, Tony Owens, the night before. Me and Tony were still sitting in the pub where we had the wake. Right, at 3 o'clock in the morning. Right, we went back to the hotel. There was another escapade. The taxi driver fucking tried to rip off a tip while I was just hide him 20 quid. Then we were going in the hotel room. He started following the hotel room, didn't he? So
he's brave.
Aye. So I just said, if you don't fuck off me, you're going to get it, you know what I mean?
Aye.
Anyway, he skedaddled. And then we buried Miller. And then again, like, you know, now I can say and talk about it because I've got half my head back, you know?
Yeah.
Like, cocaine, okay, was a massive factor in Cyril Miller killing himself, okay? Because he wasn't of sound mind, okay? And he committed suicide in the bath, all right? I went, celebrated his life, okay, with the very thing that fucking killed him, okay? I was drinking we were drinking all the night before, I had a couple hours of break, me and Tony, okay? I carried Stephen, which was grave, and then when we carried him out of the church, that was the first time I had a proper breakdown. I didn't even cry when my dad died, and when my dad got buried, when Miller, we put Miller back in the hearse to follow him down to the graveyard, I had a proper breakdown, you know? And Big Tony, he got us up, and Tony had a bit of a stumble as well, you know. He was his friend as well, and we had a little bit of a cry, and we followed the hearse down to the graveyard, and we lowered him to his grave, and then we went back, and you know, as I say, it's chaos and insanity, you know. I celebrated his life with the very thing that killed him, drinking alcohol, you know. You wouldn't do it anywhere else in the world, you know.
Same thing happened when I lost my best friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, well, I turned up high.
Yeah.
Spoke at the funeral. Everybody's like, brilliant speech and whatnot. I can't even really remember it very well. And it's like, I don't really think I don't think I've mourned anybody that I've lost until I sobered up.
Yeah.
And but we did the exact same thing. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, his liver was done, his heart was done, and his kidneys were done. And it was like all through drink, and then we'll all go to the pub to celebrate.
Crazy, it is crazy. I remember when David Dixon I was at school, won the drink again. Michael Neal and all that went in the town afterwards and won it, and would have been A's and Kirk. I would have been on back then, but I remember when Michael did die. Michael was bad with heroin and other drugs, but he got himself clean, you know. And when the police found him, obviously I had a grower in the house, but he was on the set, you know, when they did the autopsy, he was clean of drugs, but because the past drug use had caused that much damage to his heart, he had a heart attack, I think. And
same with my friend, he had nothing in his system at all when he passed away.
It's sad, man, you know, because okay, we get clean, but you know the damage has been done, hasn't it? You know what I mean? So, but Michael's funeral, we're back at somewhere in Wales, and I can't remember now. And I had one lemon soda, same as Josh. When Josh died, went back to Josh as well. I had one lemon soda, and people saying, like, even though I'd been clean like over 3 years by then, people still didn't believe because I was so high prolific on the coke and drink back then. You know, people now even still say to us, "We're gonna have a patsy, and we're gonna do it," and they'll go, "Well, I'll go. Listen, man, I don't fucking take drugs anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I'm nearly 5 years clean. I don't take drugs anymore. I don't drink."
It's uncomprehendable to some people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is. And I understand. I don't understand why, because I was a fucking scumbag on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I burnt the can at both ends and everything I've done. But like I say, yeah, Ron McGuinness, God rest his soul, he says to me, he says, "Can I have a pint?" I said, "Can I?" He went, "You can't even have one pint for all, mate, till you ship back." I went, "Listen, man," I said, this is the thing, Ronnie. I says, "You're going to go home." I says, "Even if you stay out tonight," I says, "till 3 o'clock. As you're going to go home." I says, "I'll see you next week." I says, "And I won't have stopped, man." I says, "That's the difference between me and you." I says, "I'll be on it in a week's time." I says, "And I'll have hurt all my family again." I says, "And you'll have a hangover." I says, "That's the difference between me and you, mate." You know?
Yeah, I've had the same conversation with some groups of my friends when I went clean, and they were like, "Well, you're fine." I was like, "No, what you don't realise is I might see you once every fucking 6 or 7 weeks, right? And then when we'll have a night out, what you don't realise is I've not stopped in the time I've not seen you."
Yeah.
And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Oh,
yeah, because listen, hats off to them people who can go and have 10 pints, okay, and that can have like we'll just say a Henry, and they don't sniff at all. And there is some people who can go home. Now these people, right, when I was using, I was thinking they're fucking weirdos, them.
Yeah.
You know? How someone can have like 2 or 3
foreign
lines,
cunts, I used to think they were.
go home with it still in the fucking metro ticket pocket. I'd be thinking, yeah, they're fucking proper naughty them. Like, you know, what people are them that go home with drugs and they don't finish it off. You know?
Oh, I've been around a mate's house before.
And strange characters.
Been around a mate's house before, and he's like, "Oh, you know, we've decided to have a few cans," and he's like, "Oh, I've got a half a gram in my pocket upstairs off Christmas," and I'm like, "You fucking what?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd have done that on a fucking Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Just because it was there.
Exactly. Yeah. Just because it was there. Yeah.
You know when people say like, "Oh, you use anything as an excuse to drink," I didn't need an excuse to drink because I was already drunk.
Yeah, but I get that. I mean, again, I'll go with you. I didn't need an excuse. But fuck me, I would justify it with all sorts, really.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
me now?
If my mate's cat got run over, like, I'll just tell you what, I didn't like cats. You know, my sister got scratched, I got scratched back home and fell out when we were kids. And because, like, I'm well mature now and I don't hold grudges, I mean, it's only took us 36 years to get over the cat thing.
You were lovely to my cat this morning.
But see, I didn't like cats from that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we'll just say, for instance, my mate's cat got knocked over. Oh, there's a line, mate. We're going for a pint. If someone had a baby or cushy, have a line, we'll have a pint. You know, if someone's parents died, I know what you need. You need a pint, don't you? We'll have a line. If someone got a new job, there's a line. You know what I mean? Anything at all. You know, if it was sorrowful, if it was good, christenings.
Yeah,
you
any emotion.
Anything. Fuck me. If I went and done a fucking 3-4 mile jog, you know, after I hadn't done it for a while, I would reward myself with a fucking patsy.
I used to be the same. Like with me last, I used to be like, I'm just gonna have one drink, right? Okay, I have the drink, but should I have a go at about drinking whilst I was drinking? I'd be like, well, I didn't enjoy that one, so I'm gonna have another one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely. If you had just kept quiet for all of the,
it's your fault. It's your fault.
Yeah. I drank 3 quarters. It was good, but then you started, so I'm having another one.
But it's crazy how we justify this shit.
Oh yeah, definitely, man, definitely. You know, like I can remember, you know, my mum used to ring us, obviously because my mum's got friends, still, and they used to phone and tell her, you know. Like I remember when I was homeless, and I was living at my mate's flat, and she'd ring us, she'd go, "Aye, you're back on that stuff, aren't you?" And because I was brought up to tell the truth, to shame the devil, right? Now, bear in mind, my mother's nearly 70, all right? And I would say to her on the phone, "No, mum, I'm just on the pipe, I'm not sniffing it." What sort of fucking moron thinks it's better to fucking tell the old mother that they're just smoking and crack instead of sniffing cocaine? You know what I mean? What a fucking idiot I was. You know? I really was a fucking retard. That's all I can say, retarded cunt.
You know, I've said this to you before in a meeting, but I had a list of, you know, you have like you have this like list of morals as because you're a good person.
Yeah.
And there's like a tick list of things you would never do.
Yeah.
And when the crack comes into play, a whole different level of crazy kicks off, doesn't it? And like most of them things got ticked off in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I clocked that like Weaver Street, you know what I mean? So, you know, everything that I said I wouldn't do, I don't know. I think the only thing that I haven't done, okay, is I haven't robbed a handbag. I haven't pinched a child's bike to sell. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm only using them instances because other people that I know have done it.
Yeah.
And I've actually phoned them, telling them what I'm going to do with them.
Aye.
If
Get the bike back now,
right?
aye.
But because I'm doing it on a bigger scale, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's insanity as well. Just because I'm robbing bigger amounts or like, you know, of what I would say more acceptable people.
Aye.
You know, men drug dealers, it's okay to rob them. But because they're robbing women or kids' bikes, and they're the fucking lowest of the low. You know what I mean? It's all the same. You know what I mean? But like you see the justification, they say, nah, at least I'm robbing a man. You know what I mean?
I mean, I was living on Shields Road in Biker for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Above the chemist, and that's when I got on the crack properly.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, I wouldn't say in the wrong company, because to be honest with you, right? Like people have said, like loved ones have said to me over the years, oh, you know, Craig got in with the wrong company and whatnot. No, I was the bad company.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
So I ended up on the crack, and I rang my dad one night, and I was like, I need you to come pick us up and all my stuff. I'm a crackhead, Dad. I've got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And he was like, what's a crackhead? You know, he's 70 odd year old.
Yeah.
But bless him, you know what I mean? I moved back in with him for a bit, and then I moved to Tynemouth.
Yeah.
So I thought, bit of a geographical. There's no crack in Tynemouth.
Fucking is, you know. That's where I've done a lot of my work of it.
So I ended up living in the flats opposite King Edward's Bay, and just got straight back on the speed.
You know what it is? If you were all the way towards Whitley Bay that way, and there's white flats on the left hand side.
Yeah, yeah.
I was living in there with my mate Jim Younger, and that's where I've done a lot of bad things. But just say.
So I just ended up back on the speed and back on the coke, and then I would drink in Tynemouth all day by myself every day.
Yeah, and
it was just replace one drug for another, doesn't it?
Turmoil, but when you're out, it was a good time, eh?
See, one thing I'll say about crack, I've never ever enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I don't like the buzz.
Yeah.
I would have a pipe. I would get paranoid. Be walking around the living room, me top off, pacing backwards and forwards, holding on to my heart, feeling like I'm gonna have a heart attack. I don't know what that putting your hands there apparently in my head was going to stop us from having a heart attack or something, and but couldn't stop doing it.
See, well, I didn't really get the skitzes until the end. Now, I remember being down Wales. Sorry, my good friend Leon, right? Obviously, me and him on it, and again, I would just justifying it to Leon's mother, you know, that I was smoking this pure cocaine or me sniffing that fucking mixed up shit, you know what I mean? It's fucking crazy, man, isn't it? You know what I mean? At least this is pure. I know what I'm doing, you know what I mean? I know what I'm putting in my system. It's pure cocaine. Leon, he was walking on with the axe and a fucking machete, and I was just laughing at him, thinking, why are you doing this to yourself? If this what it makes you go, like, I would never do that. Fast forward 5 years, I was exactly the same with a fucking Beretta like that. Fuck it, they're coming for us, you know what I mean? No one at all was coming for us, you know what I mean?
I very casually just dropped a Beretta in the conversation there. Tell us what you can about that.
Yeah, well, again, I'll be honest with you. Mark knows, because I've got back in touch with Mark. Got to tell a story. Years ago, obviously, Mark Rowe was good friends with John Shells and all that, and Wout and Peggy Sue's and talking about it, and I'm not letting see me Ben or Jonas. That's what she's a fucking knee better than a nonce, simple as that. Anyway, went down to Tabinia, and Mark and Trevor jumped on us. So I got the Beretta for Mark, you know, and I had resentments to Mark for years and years and years, and Paul Donaghy told us that Mark changed his life and got back into church, and would I make it up with him? And I'd say I've got nothing to make up. You know, my ego, because it wasn't me, you know what I mean? I only had resentment towards him, okay, because the damaged Rolex that was on my wrist, okay, right. And I lost the Rolex that night. I don't know where I lost it, in the Tabinia or in the taxi home, I don't know. That's the real resentment that I had, because I lost a Rolex that I didn't want to lose. Bear in mind though, I'd fucking done 9 Rolexes on the fucking crack. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I've had 9 Rolexes right in my time, right, and all of them have went with the crack, right? But because I wanted to like sell them, I wanted to fucking put them in the pawn shop, it was okay. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because this one was only a Yachtmaster or something. It wasn't big. It was just because like I didn't want it to go like that. You know what I mean? But anyway,
you could have smoked it.
Yeah, I could have smoked it. But anyway, as I say, I was in church and Mark come in and Paul Donny goes, "There's Big Red." And my response was, I couldn't give a fuck with the nonce. Right, simple as that. I wasn't very kind to mark my words at all. Anyway, Paul says go and see him, and again I said I'm not going to fucking see him. You know, there's no word of a lie, but that people believe in God or not, or I don't know what the fuck happened, right? But my feet started walking towards Mark, right? And I'm thinking, what the fuck am I doing, yeah? I get to Mark, he gives us a big cuddle, he kisses the side of me fucking head. This feeling runs from me head to me toes. I'm thinking, what the fuck? I hate two-facedness, me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm standing next to him, right? And it's eating away at us, saying, you little shit yours. So, but I couldn't speak, okay? So I'm not on a mark and I'm fucking raging that I haven't said anything. So I pointed to like, go outside. We're going outside and I'm saying, he says, you alright? I said, outside. So we'll go outside. And you alright? I said, no, I'm alright, Mark. I said, well, I had fucking resentment. He says, I said, for fucking years, you fucking scumbag. And he just said to us, he went, James, I thought, alright. And I said, well, how could we be alright, Mark? I said, I haven't fucking seen you. And he goes, James, he says, I apologise. He says, it was, you know, the drinking the drugs. And when he said that, look what I've done on drinking drugs, you know? So I was like, I appreciate that. Now listen, these words are not in my vocabulary, okay? But I turned to Mark and I said, I just want you to know, Mark, I forgive you. And when these words left my mouth, right, Mark's eyes just looked at us, you know? He shared the moment as well with us, and he'll tell you if you ask him. Anyway, he gave us a cuddle. And I said, oh man, I didn't mean to say that. And like, someone come over us, you know, and I gave him a cuddle and I went, yeah, listen, I said, I've had a resentment for years. I said, something just happened to us there. Then my legs went all funny. He went, are you alright, son? I went, I said, I'm alright, man, Mark. And then I go, something just happened. And he was like, yeah, I felt it too. But then when he said that, like, listen, I believe in God, right? But I'm not really into all this spiritual. I'm not a spiritual guru, you know? I don't believe in all this anyway. I went back in and Terry was there and she was like, that's amazing what's happened between you and Mark. And then people are praying for us and I told Mark, you know, because I've got to be honest, you know, I can't be shitty also. I tell him what I had from him, I tell him what I planned, and then after Nicky was what happened to Nicky, got shot or someone. Nicky got shot and Nicky shot, and then won the Benfield church while praying with each other, and it was a wonderful feeling, you know. I'm not going to try and preach God on everyone because, okay, I was brought up a Catholic for a long, long time, but I lost my faith for a long time, okay, now I'm back into Christianity and, you know, it's helped my life a lot, you know, it definitely has. I would urge anyone, if they're struggling with things, give it a whirl, because if you would have told me, even though I've got clean, you know, there was something still hidden, overthinking things again, even in cleaning, I still had it there. If I go back on the crack and, you know, I manage to bump in the mark, you know, but I can say it now, I can look in the eye, you know, I see Mark on a regular basis, you know, I'll grab a hold of Mark, give him a cuddle, I'll give him a kiss, same with him and me, same with Terry. My life now is a lot better than what it was. I'm wake up every morning with gratitude. Okay, I don't see my kids. Saoirse, I love her. James, I love her. I love him. Tori, I love her. You know, Leanne hasn't had to see James for a year, but, you know, we'll have to go back to court if I have to. What's meant for you won't pass you by, you know, it's as simple as that. Then there was a lass who said that I'm flat to a kid, you know, and I tell her that I wasn't ready for a kid, I didn't know her. And she's prospered over Facebook, this and another. You know, she said at the end of the day, I'm going to have the benefits. Well, that's right, you do it, that's your choice, you know. But she's prospered my name over Facebook every week, man, you know, she's just attention seeking fucking doiling.
I can remember, just a weird memory, well, it's just a random memory, right? The day I saw you in the Raby, except my lass's mate, you said, here, Fed, I get you pregnant soon as look at you.
I honestly, I just look at people and that's it, they're fucking pregnant.
So the most important part of your story now, how and when did the recovery start for you?
Okay, I was on a 3 or 4 day bend and bumped into my cousin at the time, my cousin's boyfriend at the time, Glenn Fury. And the next day, like, I felt like it was New Year's Eve, I think, or maybe New Year's Eve, I don't know. And Glenn says to us, he went, listen, James, I've never seen anyone go through cocaine like you. Now, bearing in mind, I'd been telling for years and years, even my Donna and Craig over Hartlepool, because I was there on my tours as well. They says I went through drinking drugs too much and too quick, and I had a problem. I didn't believe them. I tell my Donna that she had anxiety or she worried too much, you know. I don't know how she did it with a fucking bar stool.
At one point, I would have taken that as a compliment. You go through cocaine like nobody I've ever met. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But then when Glenn said it, because I knew Glenn was like what I thought was a proper addict.
Right.
You know, he went to meetings. When he said it, I thought, fucking hell, maybe there is something in this. And I'd been there NA twice, but I didn't go through the doors. Again, for my ego, because back then I was doing 40 pints of Guinness a day, you know what I mean? From day and night, you know, I loved stout. If you lift a pint 3 times, it's a waste of a pint, you know. That's where that I got brought up with my Uncle Vitus and my dad, you know.
Yeah.
And that was the ideology that we're surrounded with, you know. But that's just heritage back home in Ireland, you know what I mean? And big drinkers. And was it like I can remember looking at what I thought were pro addicts, you know, smackheads with no teeth and skinny. And I was 24 stone 8 pound, and I'm looking at them thinking, fucking not as bad as that, you know. But when I did actually go with Glenn, I hated myself, so I couldn't like anyone else. And people in them rooms that were fucking nice to us for no other reason. People giving us cuddles and asking us if I wanted a cup of tea. And in my head, right, bearing in mind, I'm sitting in a room full of junkies, but in my head, I'm still thinking, what do these want off me?
It's a scam.
Yeah, definitely. You know, because listen, man, the circles that I end up running, you know, no one cared about you.
Yeah,
they didn't, you know. But in any people just generally want you to do well in life, you know, and they love you and care you for who you are, you know. And as I say, like, you know, I hate myself, and people fucking saying to us, you know, just keep it in the day, keep it an hour if you have to. I didn't understand any of that, you know. And people saying keep coming back, and you know, fucking hate them. I did. And I can remember Alan Ben, my good friend, he got his 90-day trip. You know what I said to him, right? Aren't you full of shit? And I would laugh about it now, but now I know how important recovery is to him and myself now, obviously, and how passionate I am about it. How horrible that was, you know, his life's best achievement back then, you know, because you know yourself 90 days are hard to get, you know, but I said he was full of shit. And then when I heard other people saying that they were fucking 4 and 5 years, I really did think this was some sort of cult, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These people are sharing that they woke up in Durham jail thinking, how was this happened again? Like my sponsor would say, you know, you only went out for a pint, and you wake up in Durham jail thinking, how's this happened again? And I was thinking, well, if this did really happen to them, how are they sitting in here clean and just drinking teas and fucking coffee? How boring is that, you know what I mean? But I did just listen and do the suggested things, and now I'm nearly 5 years clean. So
well done, mate.
Something that I thank you very much. Something that I thought was never ever possible, you know. In the time before, and you know, I've heard a lot of people, you know, Antoinette, I can only apologise for the hurt that I caused her. All the false promises, Leanne Armstrong and her family, they were a big part of my life. I love them. You know, I tried my best with Leanne, and nothing was good enough to make amends. And then I moved on, and you know, I'm now with a wonderful girl, Dion Slater. I'm with ourselves great in recovery, and now we're having a little girl.
Congratulations, mate.
Thank you very much. In April, yeah. Namaya Slater McCRORY will be born, and you know, she will never ever see Jimmy the Peeve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She'll never see Jimmy the Peeve. And like I say, if I'm going to get DNA, this other lass, and if the child turns out to be mine, you know, I'll try and do whatever I can do, you know. But I'm leaving this country anyway, you know. And I did tell her that as well, you know. I said, don't try and trap us. And obviously she done her thing, and she's entitled to her thing, you know. I'm not going to, but that's the truth, you know. And if she wants to keep writing shit on Facebook and, you know, getting people to feel sorry for her and this, she can, you know. You know, she's in charge of her own destiny, you know. But you know, I'll tell that boy the same as I'm telling her, and he can hear this as well. I didn't want a child with a stranger because I thought it was a crazy thing to do, bring a child into the world, especially a fucking maniac like me, you know, who was just getting a grip on his life, you know. But it is what it is, isn't it? I'm just looking forward now, hopefully getting it right parenting this time, you know. As long as I don't pick up, you know, I've got faith in this process it's got us this far, you know, and hopefully I can carry on making me my proud. Like, I'll be honest with you, I'm 41, okay, I've just passed my driving test the other day. I phoned my mother, and she was crying because she was genuinely happy. I'll be honest with you, I cried my eyes out because when my daddy died, okay, I was working, but I was selling drugs as well, and I said to my mum, I said, what do you want done? And she says, I just want the garden done. So I paid for the gardens to be done. Put a smile on her face, but, you know, it was a false smile as well because she knew I was up to no good. The boxing, you know, I gave her an England vest and the England medal, and, you know, she was happy, but she didn't want us fighting, so, again, it was false. Bare knuckle, I achieved good things in that. But again, she didn't really want us fighting, so it was false. This film's being finished now, and hopefully it does well. I can make amends to my mum and the children, and, you know, give something to Dion and make a good life for this child. And as long as I get a couple more good experiences with my mother, because she's had bad health, you know, I can see my mother generally happy for the man that I'm getting back to who I was born to be before I diluted me fucking soul with narcotics. You know what I mean?
Did you mention a film there?
Yeah, I did.
Tell me about that.
Right, there's another thing that's about the madness as well, mate. Guy Cy Biggs messages on the internet, Facebook. Bear in mind, I was very fucking slow coming on the internet, you know, very, very slow. And I'd been getting a few trolls. Anyway, I generally thought it was just some troll taking the piss.
Right.
So he says, I want to come to a film, and I went, right, no bother. So I said, if you come meet us at the Dorset, I says, I'll do it, you know, I'll talk to you about it. All right, no bother. Right, so anyway, we're in Lee Madgen's, God rest his soul, off me fucking canister I was, right? 2 or 3 days in. And this bloke rings us, and he goes, hello, where are you? I went, where the fuck are you? He went, I'm in the pub. I went, are you fuck? I went, right, I went, what's a dog called? So he shouted to the barman, he went, what's a dog called? And he, obviously, Cy went, it's called Andy. I went, fuck. That's what Stan's dog is called, Andy. I thought, shit, he's really here. So,
what's the dog called?
Aye.
Random as fuck, that.
Aye. So I've jumped, I've got a wash, and I've went and I've seen him. I went, yeah, listen, mate. I went, I'm off my fucking lips. I said, I'll give you the money for the petrol, I says, but I said, I thought you were just a mega, you know. I says, so if you come back, I says, we'll meet again. I says, we'll do it properly this time, you know. And we had a pint, and he just laughed. You right, okay. And then obviously Cy went back to London, and then he come back. Anyway, it took a long time. And in that time, I was full on the fucking crack, and, you know, Cy had his issues as well. He's got his demons, and I went to America and come back, and then me daddy's cousin Ray Hollywood said, right, okay, I'll invest in it. And then we got a schedule, timetable has been done, and, you know, I went down for the last year filming. I don't really think there's a big deal. Okay, there's a film getting made about us. Like, it's nothing to me, you know. Like, Dion saying James is massive, and my mum saying it's a big thing. It's you know, it's just not to me. Maybe it's one over my head. Maybe it will be a big thing when I say it. I don't know, you know. Even we had a school reunion the other day, a few of the lads and they're talking about it. It just goes over my head.
So is it a documentary or an actual film?
No, it's a life story, yeah. It's a life story, yeah. And listen, I've met some great people through it, you know. John Duddy, I grew up chasing him as an amateur. You know, when I used to buy the box news, I'd look at the amateur ratings and I'd say Duddy. But again, the only reason I wanted to fight John Duddy, right, was my people pleasing, because my daddy, I wanted to fight John Duddy in Croke Park, right? My daddy would love his son to fight at Croke Park, you know. Since then, you know, John plays me in the film, along with another guy, Thomas Dennis, plays a younger me. John, I would class John as a good friend now, you know. It's crazy how life works. Steve Collins plays Dave Radford in the film. Right. Great.
What's the film called? The Gypsy Boy?
No, Angel of the North, which is fucking ironic. Angel of the North, yeah. And
that'll rustle a few feathers in the title.
yeah. Well, it will do. It certainly will do, mate. Yeah, listen. I'm blessed. I'm full of gratitude that, you know, I was just saying to Sean Cronin, the director, the other day. I went, listen, man, I was talking about the film. Anyway, Sean messages back. I'll let you listen to it after this. Now, Sean, when you listen to me say this, don't think I'm being disrespectful, but it was just a load of bullshit to me. When you hear and read what he sent us, mate, I mean, you might as well have sent us a fucking Chinese menu. It is absolutely insane, the amount of work. But, you know, when I hear Sean talk about the film, it does get me excited, you know, because he's passionate about it, you know, and he's very good at what he does. And, you know, it was really, really good listening to that. I got a buzz off listening to that. It was good, and the film will be out, you know.
Any idea when?
Yeah, it'll be springtime, or I think maybe the latest summer, maybe better summer.
I definitely want to see an advanced screening of that one.
Yeah,
if I can.
Listen, you can get down to the premiere. 100%.
Yes, definitely.
What do you call it? This one to tell me 5 years ago, okay, when the end of my use, there's nothing attractive about it. I just wanted to die, you know. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror getting a wash. I fucking hated myself. I wanted to go over. Every time that I was smoking a fucking pipe, I was thinking, one more, I'll go over. My heart was fucking bursting out my chest. And I was disappointed because I wasn't going over. But now, right, if you would have said to me, right, in 5 years' time, you're going to know one of the heroes. Well, I don't normally, I speak to him, Cal Brook, okay? I speak to Cal Brook. Ebony Bridges, I speak to her regular. You know, I class her as a friend. She's been up, she's stayed at my house with Wallace, and I would never have dreamed of even having a conversation with Cal Brook, okay? I would never have dreamed of speaking to Ebony Bridges. And this has only happened because I've got clean. I've done the right thing. You know, good things do happen to good people.
Yeah.
And okay, I've done lots of wrong. I have done lots and lots of wrong. And I'm deeply ashamed of that wrong, okay? I can't change the past. I'll make amends where I'm allowed. And hopefully people have a little bit more understanding when I get the diagnosis, maybe. I'm not asking for, you know, a pass or, you know, for people to forget things that I've done, because autism and ADHD doesn't dissolve every badness that I've done, okay?
Yeah.
But maybe...
Yeah, we still know the difference between right and
wrong.
Yeah,
but maybe people will just understand that I don't think the same as them, hence why I act, or I have acted in some of the ways that I have, you know? And if they don't, then that's on them too, you know? That's up to them. If they want to hold their resentments for as long as what I did with Mark, then do it. But I'm telling you, it doesn't do no good. I'll tell you something else about that as well. The day after that, I seen Mark in church, right? On Revision Gym the next morning. I do 3 miles on a fast pace on the treadmill. No. Because I'd been holding resentment for that long, okay? Would you believe it? Because I wouldn't believe it for someone to tell us. I jumped on the treadmill and I done me 3 mile fast paced run. I knocked 2 minutes off my personal best time.
Wow.
That's because I was holding on to badness. You know what I mean? And I didn't know that.
Literally,
yes.
Literally a weight's been
lifted. It was weighing us down. I took 2, it wasn't talking about seconds, I had 2 full minutes. You know what I mean? But that's the truth. If people want to believe it, they want to believe it. Let go of your resentments, because it hurts you more than it hurts other people. And I can say that from self experience, you know what I mean?
One more little thing I want to touch on, because you mentioned it. You went to America.
Yeah. I went to America. My dad's cousin got in touch with us. Just a second, I get a drink.
Did you go to America with HEDGEHOG at one point?
Oh, I went there fighting. He's a fucking weirdo. He just stayed in the lobby playing on the computer, grooming people. Then again, I was no better because I was just fucking drinking Guinness and fucking sniffing in New York.
Yeah. Was it New York where you went to?
Fought in Philadelphia and
Philadelphia.
When I was Philly with fought, and then, but when I went to try and sort my head out, my uncle, so my dad's cousin Ray, he got in touch with us because he's seen a lot of the craziness on Facebook, and he just said, "Listen, he's I recognise a bit of the old me and you." I went, all right, aye. So he went and picked us up, and the first time they picked us up, we stopped somewhere. I went and we got macaroni and cheese at the diner, and we were in there for I think about an hour and 10 minutes. But I had 8 pints, and Ray said to us, you know, he says, "I think you like that a bit too much." And I'll be honest with you, I was deeply fucking offended. You know, I thought, what sort of a cunt's this? Inviting us over, you know, his family.
Yeah.
You know, my daddy's first cousin, like my second cousin. I was like, what sort of a cunt does this? Brings you over, like, to another country to make positive changes, and then tells you you've fucking got a problem with drink after he like offered us him. You know what I mean? I think what's up with cunts this?
One thing I've been to the States about 15 times. One thing I've noticed over there is they don't drink like we do.
Yeah,
they really don't.
So that was the first time. I drank quite a bit the first time. But the second time, I stayed clean every fucking week. I think I'd done 12 weeks until the last year. I went out at the Pure de Manco or something, the Mexican festival, I think.
Right, yeah.
So I went out with a couple of Mexicans.
Mexican Labor Day or something, was it?
Aye, Pure de Manco, that's what was called, what it is. Anyway, I got fucking arsehole, didn't I? Then threw back, and then I thought Marcus looked on the next year, and Marcus put manners on us. And he helped deflate my ego. So I've got a lot to be thankful for Marcus as well, because if he hadn't have done what he'd done, I think he stopped us in a round or two, I'm not sure. But if he hadn't have done what he had done, I think maybe in 2 rounds, maybe because I threw in the towel. But if he hadn't have done what he'd done, or Michael Ferry hid in the towel, sorry. If he hadn't have done what he'd done, I would have carried on using and died, you know what I mean? Because I genuinely thought that I was just like good at the sesh, you know what I mean? I didn't think that I could possibly have a disease of addiction, you know what I mean?
Good at the sesh.
Yeah. But me ego got deflated by then, and then me ego needed deflated again with a guy, Kofi King. Went down, I thought I was hungry to get back in the bare knuckle, but I went down and the offered us a fight. I said, I'll fight anyone. And when I went down, give away a 5 stern. Listen, I only give away £5 amateurs, you know what I mean? And now I know why weight is so important. And Kofi King nearly took my fucking head off. Honestly, I think he dropped us 2 or 3 times, and that boy can really hit. Like, you know, he's a massive puncher. He is. He's done weights and powerlifting for a long time at a high level, but you know, fair fucks to him. He got the result. I didn't. But I could have went and sulked. I didn't. It was lessons that I needed to be learned. You know what I mean? Deflated me even more, and then I got myself back in the meetings more and done more training. Done a couple of Great North runs and get myself fitter, and I'll be back fighting again. I fought Brian Ward, I think 5 weeks ago. I had a good fight with Brian. You know, I thought I'd done enough to win, but they give it to him. It is what it is.
Have you got any fights coming up?
Yeah, I've got one February in Derry against Cahalmua. Then I'm fighting, I think, the 15th or the 22nd of February in Bradford against a lad I know from the amateurs.
Are these bare knuckles or?
No, just boxing.
Just boxing.
Just want to get my time on that back.
Yeah.
On me. And then March the 1st, I got offered a hybrid fight of Ben Hatchett and some boy Ryan Flavors, but just messing about. What they're saying, they offered us this fight, and I said, okay.
I didn't realise you knew Ben.
Yeah. Well, this is on Facebook, like, you know that
he's in recovery as well. Yeah. I'm gonna get him on here.
Very good. They offered us a fight. No, they offered me the fight. Okay, so obviously they know that their guy wants the fight, so they've matched the fight, and then I get a message back saying, okay, then we can't get your management doing what? I went, how on, man? You offered me the fight. I say, so his management must have been alright with it. You know what I mean? I said, listen, I've been in this fight game, since I was 10. I walked through Norman Fawcett's gym doors when I was 10 years of age. Yeah. I says, I forgot more about, this industry than what you know. I says, offered us Luke Dyson. I says, right, no bother. I says, make it $2,000, which was only 250 quid more than what they're offering us. I says, make it $2,000. I says, we'll do it. I says, bear in mind, I says, yous have let me down. I says, yous have got to come back with a good counter offer. And they went, nah. I went, right. I said, fair enough. I said, good luck then. I said, just messers. I said, that's how you all messers. Right. You know, I don't know why they don't want to bring the guy over from America now. It's to save money. But listen, it's a business, that's all it is, promoters, you know. I'm not going to sitting down Ryan and Ben too much, you know, because they're in to make money. You know, it's as simple as that. But don't come to someone like me who's been in the game long and they've been fucking alive and try and tell me that the kid doesn't want it because of the management, when I know they don't want to bring him over because it saves them hotels, it saves them on plane tickets, and it saves everything else, you know. That's the reason why.
It's quite an expensive fight to put on, isn't it?
It is, but I know what my name brings. You know, even though I'm fucking far finished cunt at the minute. You know what I mean? I know people still want to see me, even if the people want to see me get beat. You know what I mean? Because I know there's a few people that demonators. Now they want to see us get me face punching. And listen, custody, come along. Either way, buy ticket them calculators or not. you know. And there is a lot of people down London, the old timers, the bare knuckle, you know, that were on the front rows. You know, I had 50 tickets sold already for the hybrid fight. So it's there, lost really.
Where is the hybrid fight if it took place?
Oh, somewhere in London, I couldn't tell you.
So I think a good place to end this is your hat says it's okay not to be okay. And I think that's a great message.
Yes,
what does that mean to you?
Well, for me, you know, fucking 4 failed suicide attempts. You know, at that moment in time, I wasn't thinking very well. I've lost a couple of good friends. That was just a moment of madness, and you know, it is okay not to be okay. Even it is just that moment. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay. It's okay to be depressed if you're depressed. It's okay to be negative sometimes if that gets you through whatever you need to go through. But just remember, whatever you're going through, it won't last. You know, and I can say that through lived experience. You know, I remember when people used to come to the session and they used to say, you know, I'm not doing this again. I'm fucking not doing this again. And I used to get pissed off with them because it spoiled my high. Me hearing them saying, you fucking are. Because I'd accepted it. I was saying, listen, we're just going to be fucking wreckheads all our life, man. Stop spoiling me fucking high, you know.
Aye.
But it's not, man. Nothing lasts forever, you know. And if you just keep on going, don't give up. You know what I mean? That's all I'll say. Never give in. And you'll get where you want to be.
James, thank you so much for doing this. It's been a fucking brilliant episode.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Well,
thank you very much.